The Canadian Wild Turkey Federation presents
Turkey Talk
with your hosts, the guys that keep it real. From the Real Outdoor Experience, it's Carlin Riley and Ian McCleary. Stay tuned, folks. We discuss way more than just turkey hunting tips and tricks. If conservation, protection, and enhancement of the outdoors is important to you, you have come to the right place. It's go time.
3, 2, 1, let's go.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the CWTF's Turkey Talk podcast with your hosts from the Real Outdoor Experience, Carlin and Ian. Today, we have a special guest, Minister Mike Holland, Minister of Natural Resources for New Brunswick. Mike is a special guest because he is also one of the co-founders of the CWTF, and obviously this is the CWTF Turkey Talk podcast. And we have some special news. If you haven't heard already, we'll talk about that, a little bit about the recent brand new season of turkey hunting in New Brunswick. And anybody that's been to New Brunswick, it's going to be a different season out there. I don't know how I would hunt them. There's so many trees. So anyway, welcome, Minister Holland. Thanks for joining us today.
It's a pleasure, gents. I love watching the stuff you guys do. So it's a privilege to be able to participate and have a chance to share a little bit about some of the exciting stuff we have going on in the eastern part of the country.
Mike, I know it's been an awfully long time coming. You guys have been working towards a turkey season for 10 years now?
Over that. Yeah. I mean, I've been involved. I was kind of doing the math on my fingers the other day and I had to go to my toes. I've been involved for almost 15 years myself. Guys like Terry Smith, even longer than that. We were involved with this project pre-CWTF. We were all NWTF members back in the day. This goes back to our chapters in St. John, New Brunswick, and Sussex, New Brunswick. A lot of guys have gone before us. I was involved as a district director with the NWTF. And then they changed operations. And so Terry Smith and myself, Gordy Peak, we were all involved as NWTF members. And we said, we're not going to let the work stop. So we carried on and continued. We didn't know if we were going to do a New Brunswick Wild Turkey Federation, an Atlantic Canada Wild Turkey Federation. But we said the work that we have going on here had to continue. And so our footprint began in New Brunswick with the Canadian Wild Turkey Federation, and then it pretty quickly spread throughout the rest of the country. And then we just kept continuing the work that we were doing. We had made strides in the latter days of the NWTF and in the emerging days of CWTF to actually have a turkey hunt announced, but an election kind of got in the way. The wrong guy lost, or you'd say the right guy lost or the wrong guy won, or however you want to put it. And like most times with an election, anything that the other guy did, went out like a baby with the bathwater. And so then we went through a 4-year wilderness there until we formed government again in 2018. And you can bet your bottom dollar that when I was named Minister of Natural Resources, I really wanted to see that work continue and entrench a wild turkey management program here in New Brunswick. So even then, with a willing government, with a willing minister, we went from 2018 until 2021 here in the spring to actually get off the ground with our first season ever in New Brunswick. And that's going to be here in May of 2021. So we're right at the doorstep, a lot of work. I'm sitting here in the position of minister, but there's a lot of people that went before me that deserve credit and thanks, and too many to name and mention, but we're here, guys and girls, and we're gonna bring it to reality.
Congratulations! That is a remarkable achievement. The politics aside, what are the other sort of challenges that would sort of stand in the way of having a turkey season there?
Well, anytime you venture into something that's unknown, there are variables and there are concerns, and I mean those are legitimate, right? What we did was we started years ago looking at the fact of what are the concerns. And so our hunt it's similar, and it's based on models that the state of Maine began with, but we've kind of made it a made in New Brunswick type plan because we've been experiencing a significant migration of eastern wild turkeys from Maine, and we're on the border of Maine and Quebec. So not requiring a COVID vaccination or a passport, those birds kept coming. And we said this 10 years ago. We said, if we don't do something about this, we will have a population of wild turkeys in the province with no management program. And so what we did was, typically they begin with a wild turkey management program begins with a trap and transfer. You guys are familiar with that. You probably were participants of it. There was a significant concern over trapping and transferring from the agricultural community. They had concerns over crop damage to begin with, and they were very concerned over the fact that if we trap and transfer birds throughout the province, that will only extrapolate that issue and complicate it more and take a situation that's contained to one area of the province and move it all over the place. Myself and the research that I've done and seen from a variety of different stakeholders indicates that wild turkeys are only really accountable for single-digit crop damage, somewhere in the range of 2%. Problem is that the bears and the deers and the skunks get into the field at night, and when people come out in the morning, poor turkey, he's flown down and he gets to blame for everything, right? So, but that's a legitimate concern, and like agriculture, the agricultural industry, they're our people. And so years ago, before I was ever elected, I met with the Agricultural Alliance and said, well, I think there's a lot more that unites us than divides us here. What if we talk about managing the birds that are there? Because if they're here now and they're causing you a problem and we don't manage them, it's only going to get worse. Right. So we found a common ground there to work on managing them where the concentrated populations exist. And so that's essentially morphed into the model that we have right now. I think through natural migration, perhaps through hunting pressure, or perhaps in a few years when people realize that the sky didn't fall because we were hunting turkeys in New Brunswick, that we may be able to see that expansion. I would hope to see that come about. But it was an example of us realizing that for years we were getting nowhere because we were entrenched in a trap and transfer model. And when we shifted our paradigm and said, let's look at creating a management program, regardless of how it looks, so that we can get them on the books. I've always maintained that if an animal of any kind lives in the woods or the water of New Brunswick, it's incumbent on the Department of Natural Resources to manage it. And here these birds are growing in populations where we have no data on them, we have no biologicals, and I don't think that's right. So we said, let's move forward and put together a science-based management hunt for them, and then expand from there.
Oh, that's fantastic. Turkeys coming in from Maine, turkeys coming in from Quebec. What kind of accent are those turkeys going to have?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure what language they're going to speak, but I think once they start hearing boom a few times, there's going to be a universal language of shoot to and barbecue. So
yeah, right on. Mike, with the WMUs, or how are you breaking up the province to determine where you're going to start your hunts?
Well, the province of New Brunswick consists of 27 WMZs, wildlife management zones here in New Brunswick. And of course, like I said, we border Quebec and we border Maine. And so primarily there's 5 management zones where we've, through a combination of university studies, CWTF chapters, and quote unquote citizen science, just identifying birds and surveys, we've determined that there's 5 of those zones where the population is pretty significant. And one of them actually isn't even on a border location. So we've said, let's start there. Maine in 1984 started with 400 tags. So we're going to use and we understand that the numbers they had were smaller than the numbers we have right now. So we thought, well, let's use something. Let's not reinvent a wheel. We're going to use their model. We're going to draw for 400 tags. Those split over those 5 zones. One zone has as high as 125 tags in it. The others have as low as 50 in it. So we just tried to as biologically as possible spread that out and put together what we think is fair. Now, it's also interesting to note that in 1984, when they put out 400 tags in Maine, I think they actually tagged 8 or 9 birds. I can't wait. Those buggers have made me look like a fool for years. And I can't wait to see a bunch of folks that feel like this is going to be like shooting a grouse on the side of a ATV trail, to going in the woods and seeing what it takes to actually bring one of those fellas into heart-stopping, gobbling distance to drop the hammer. So I can't wait. Actually, yeah. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm excited for you guys. That's fantastic. Do you have? We spoke with Chris Clark a while back, and he said the last count that he had that he knows about in New Brunswick was roughly about 3,000 birds. Any update on that?
I think that's consistent with the information that we have. And like I said, nobody's gone through and said 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever. And that you can see 14 today and see none tomorrow. You may be duplicating some counts, but there's some that you're missing. So I feel like we had the University of New Brunswick embark upon a study, and so we feel like they are going to be conservative in their estimates. So when they come back to us and we talk in that 2,000 or 3,000 bird range, we feel very confident. And just me, from being in the woods of New Brunswick over the last 10 years, really focused in on turkeys. We're seeing the numbers increase. I remember I'd travel around with the NWTF to chapters or to try to get chapters started. And I'd talk to a room full of hunters and say, has anybody here seen a wild turkey? And maybe you get the odd hand go up. And now it's come full circle. As the minister, I'm traveling around to those same areas. Some of them are chapters that we established when we were volunteers. And now, it's rare if a hand doesn't go up. So just in a decade, the massive amount of the population and the proliferation of the population in New Brunswick, it's pretty significant. And so we feel very comfortable that those numbers that we're talking about are good, safe, solid, and even conservative numbers. So the resource will be protected as we go forward with the management with a 400 tag draw. We're pretty confident.
The reintroduction efforts of the Ministries of Natural Resources and NWTF and subsequent CWTF has been such a remarkable success story. Like in Ontario, it was back in the mid 80s when they started to reintroduce them. Now turkeys are everywhere, including walking up and down Main Street in just about every town in southwestern Ontario. It's not going to be long, I don't think, before the numbers in New Brunswick reach that type. What would you suggest is probably going to be the biggest obstacle to that? Would it be weather, or what would it be?
Well, geography would probably be the biggest issue. Like when you look at the province of New Brunswick, in the southwestern part of the province of New Brunswick, you're dealing with a pretty mixed topography. You're dealing with a variety of different mixed species of forest. You start moving up into the northeastern part of the province of New Brunswick, the winters wind up becoming quite severe. All over into the northern part of the province, there's a lot of. I would say it's what the seasons are going to do, and then of course, those birds can live on next to nothing. It's crazy when you see some of those crops in the spring, what's not in them, right? But it's I think that as you move into the northeast, it's going to become less habitable for them. Well, one of the things that we're doing here in the province of New Brunswick is I embarked last year on a historic conservation effort to double the protected natural areas in the province of New Brunswick. It's never been done before. It's we're adding the equivalent of, it's almost 500,000 hectares. To give you a little bit of context on that, the plantation forestry in the province of New Brunswick is 400,000 hectares. So we're adding as much area back into protection and conservation that we actually have in plantation forested area in the province. That's historic. It's never been done before. It's going to take our protected natural areas up into. We've seen some forestry agreements in the last decade that have reduced our protected areas to down around dangerous levels of 23%, where they were at floating around 28. When I'm done, we're going to be hopefully up into the mid 30s, where we're going to have protected areas, and we're going to have that done in this calendar year. And one of the keys to it is to have a connectivity of habitat, because habitat all unto itself is great, but the carrying capacity of that habitat will only handle so many animals unless you've got the means with which you can connect it to other areas, connect it to old growth forest. With turkeys, connect it to deer wintering areas. By doing that, with the work we're doing to protect and conserve hundreds of thousands of hectares of New Brunswick natural landscape. That's like the old saying, the incoming tide will rise all boats in the harbor. We're doing a lot of work on buffer zones with forestry areas, river work, riparian habitat. I'm even looking at a pilot project this year of taking power lines and hydro lines that are normally just cut and then just treated with herbicide to keep the vegetation from the lines. But we're going to do a pilot project this year of cutting it, scarifying it, and doing some sort of real low maintenance food plot in these power lines and hydro lines. So we're getting creative. We've been more creative than we've been in a generation. We've expanded a lot of opportunities. We're protecting cold water pools. And when you do something that's good for the ground, it's good for everything. It's not perfect. We got a long ways to go. And quite frankly, one of the things that I wanted to fix when I got here was the pendulum had swung heavily towards industry for a long time. And I wanted to bring it back into some sort of a balance where conservation sat at the table and were very much directly involved in the decisions about the natural landscape of the province. So I feel like we're moving in the right direction. And all of that work that we're talking about, yeah. I mean, I remember sitting on a pipeline in Maine and hearing a gobble from what felt like miles and miles away. And then it just continued to get closer and louder and closer and louder and closer and louder. And that always stuck with me, where I thought about, those pipelines are connected. They're connections. They're roadways for those birds to travel. And so with that in mind, we're thinking about making sure that as we, weave these conserved areas through the province, that we have that protection connected. And guess what? They'll go. We know they will. We've seen it. They're here in New Brunswick because they follow those connected passive habitats. So that was a real long answer to say, oh man, I can't wait to look forward in the future and see where these birds wind up actually migrating.
How did you wind up so passionate about wild turkeys? I mean, it's not historically not synonymous with the Maritimes and coastal images that we have of New Brunswick. And
no, it's not.
How did you wind up so focused on turkeys?
I was one of those guys. I grew up on a farm in northern New Brunswick, and listen, you went out and you grabbed one, wrung it by the neck, and the next thing you know, it was on the dinner table. It didn't seem like it was a very intelligent quarry to pursue. So I'm one of those guys, just like, you see them at the camp, I'm better than Jim Shockey. Let me go. I can do this. And so I hit the woods, and these beautiful, ugly birds make a fool of me. And I'm like, no, man, this is, and I come from moose country, right? And the similarities between hunting turkeys and hunting moose, you call them, you stir in the rut, you get them fired up, you bring them in. You can blow it in a second, and it starts out as I said, I'm going to do this as a bucket list, and then it's an obsession all of a sudden. So I guess anybody that's done it before, you can trip into it, and then it's got you hooked.
I think as soon as you hear your first gobble, it's like know what, I want to know more about that. Oh, I was lucky because, we could do that literally in my backyard in Ontario. So where did you guys have to go when you wanted to first turkey hunt?
Well, I'll tell you a little story. Before I was elected, and one of the things that helped me, I was an executive assistant to cabinet ministers years ago. And so I said, I'm bilingual. I can speak turkey and government. And so I had the chance to see on the inside the workings of government, and I was a volunteer with the NWTF and the emerging CWTF at that time, and so I had a chance to. I really wanted to share this, so I took the then Minister of Natural Resources and cooked up a trip down to Maine, to southwestern Maine, just outside of Portland, with 10th Legion Guides and Outfitters. Jim Westcott and Rob Codio. I don't know if you ever heard of those guys or not before.
I'm talking to Jim not too long ago, actually.
Those guys are legends, man. Those are legendary guys. And I remember going down there with the then Minister of Natural Resources, and he wasn't hunting, but I was bringing him down to show him the opportunity. We went into LL Bean to talk about the economic benefits to it. And I'm just a low-level assistant here, but I started to see the opportunity, and I started to get very excited about it. And then of course I met Jim Westcott, who took me under his wing, no pun intended. Yeah. And he called me a sponge because I kept asking questions. And so I kept coming back, year after year just to get Jim's knowledge, the institutional knowledge that man has. He was there when NWTF introduced the birds into Maine. We've seen the results of what that is. This guy's got something that he's got a story to tell, and it's more important for me to listen to him than him to listen to me. And I've always taken that attitude with Jim, and that's transpired into the work we're doing here in New Brunswick. He's one of my mentors, and we're seeing that result now. So Maine was where a lot of us focus. I did go to. I've missed turkeys all over the place. I'm a catch and release turkey hunter everywhere. Don't worry about that. But I've hunted Ontario and some New England states and stuff like that. So I haven't done anything like where snakes bite you, and I'm all right if I don't.
No
snakes, no spiders.
Yeah, you got snakes, gators, and spiders. You know what? I'll watch your TV show. I'm good.
I know that Jim Westcott was continues to be very active in the hoot and shoot programs.
Well, I can't say enough about the hoot and shoot programs. I was there from the beginning of that hoot and shoot program, and that crystallized the DNA within the CWTF to be a conservation group that is focused on the next generation. Yeah. You know, we had one kid that came, was one of our board members' sons. He came as a kid to go and be mentored to hunt. A couple of years later, he was a mentor himself. He's gone through forestry school and training. Like it does. It just
great story.
And this kid's a man now, and he makes his living from natural resources. And I like to think that a little bit of that investment that we made in him as a young man, brought that alive. Because that hoot and shoot, we're out there, we're not teaching kids. Jim Westcott's got a line that I tell everybody I mentor, and it's, I can take you out and show you how to shoot. Oh, sorry. Did I lose? Oh, there. Jim's line is, I can take you out and show you how to shoot a bird, or I can take the time to teach you how to hunt wild turkeys. And I made the decision with Jim that I was going to learn how to hunt wild turkeys. And so when you do that, like he's identifying what a red oak leaf looks like versus a white oak leaf. And you see that's a dust bowl. And, and I mean, we all live in the hunting world where a lot of guys just want to go in and drop the hammer. But that hoot and shoot was a full immersion into environmental sustainability and ecological responsibility. And kids are coming out of that with a lot more than a bird over their shoulder. There's times where the hoot and shoot, we struck out. We didn't take anything, but the kids took a great deal away from it. So that's an incredible program.
COVID has actually been a bit of a challenge on guys like Jim, because they rely so heavily on an awful lot of Maritimers coming down in Maine to share his facility and learn from him as well. So that's hopefully things get back on track for him. How did women like us come about?
Well, I mean, you see that when you put a bunch of people that are passionate about introducing new people into our outdoor sports, you're going to see this stuff come about. Lisa Godin from Nova Scotia is by far a better outdoors person than I ever hoped to be in. And she's also a tornado when it comes to organization and working with that stuff. She was very heavily involved in the Women Like Us. And so we started to see something come about that we didn't want to become just that group of old fellas that roll into the woods and shoot a bird and brag about it. So the Kids Like Us program, the Women's Like Us program, that, like I said, that DNA came from the early days of saying, we need to introduce more people to our sport. And one of the largest growing demographics of people introduced to hunting is women. And they take it seriously. And quite honestly, I got 3 kids, and when I'm bringing them up, my daughter was the best student when it came to going into the woods and learning how to be patient and following instructions, right? So we're seeing a group of people come in that bring something to hunting that us as guys don't have, and they're bringing their kids with them, and potentially they're bringing non-hunting spouses with them. So what we're doing is we're allowing our opportunity to influence spread out through pretty non-traditional ways. So the CWTF should be very proud of the way they've focused on emerging sectors in our industry.
Well, it's funny we talk about the Kids Like Us, Women Like Us program, and we have a program that's called YODA, and it's our Youth Outdoor Day of Adventure. And it was so easy for us to be conservation partners and partner up with all the great work that the CWTF does. Like, it's a synergistic effect. And I can feel the passion coming out of my computer screen from you, Mike, about turkey hunting, about getting people outdoors. And the more that we all band together and work towards, getting all of these people out there and helping people that don't have a mentor. I grew up with a dad that mentored me, and Ian had mentors, and we mentor each other. I don't know, maybe not me so much to Ian, but you know what I mean? Like, I mentor my son. All of these opportunities exist because of organizations like the CWTF. And yeah, just a great, refreshing conversation that we're having here about all this.
Well, and we're having that conversation more and more. And I'm the era of the podcast, even the era of COVID, that's allowing us to have these conversations. We probably wouldn't be sitting in the same room having this conversation. And if Zoom didn't become such a household tool, we need to take advantage of this stuff and have that conversation. And I talk a lot about media having the opportunity for us to send a message, because we have the opportunity to not just define who outdoors people are, but redefine. Yes. Because we have stereotypes that work against us. We have stereotypes that we are, we want to shoot a deer after dark, after 6 beer, out the window of our truck, right? I mean, I grew up in rural New Brunswick. You guys, you came from different areas, and you know that sometimes people view hunters as abusers of resources, and I'm committed to changing that paradigm and showing that we are actually the reason why the resource exists. We want to see more animals born than die. Like Leopold's comment that without conservation there'd be no hunters, but without hunters there'd be no conservation. Right. It's such a mantra for us that we need to continually talk about ecological sustainability, environmental responsibility. We want to like the protected natural areas we're working on in New Brunswick, protecting cold water pools for spawning fish. That like we've got to be stewards of that environment. And when they start thinking about stewards of the environment, and it just so happens that we strap a gun over our shoulder and head out to harvest animals to feed our family, then it becomes a more acceptable, perspective on it. So I'm committed to that. And that's why I come on shows like this. You guys are as well. And we need to tell our story. And the other thing is hunters need to join together versus, if you hunt with a crossbow, don't fight with the guy that hunts with the longbow, right? And if you're a gun hunter, don't argue with the muzzleloader hunter. There's one of the things that I've realized, and I've worked in government in some way, shape, or form for a number of years. Not everybody in government shares our passion for the outdoors. A lot of them want to get to 4:30 and ultimately their retirement and not have to do a whole great deal along the way. Okay. And I've pushed and pressured a lot of people since I've walked into government. Now I've found bright shining stars who have been just dying to be given that, that empowerment so that they can go and do something and make a difference. But if we're continually viewed as fighting amongst ourselves, there are people that will do everything they can to point to that and say, see, no sense in us doing anything for them. They can't even get along with themselves. So let's not create challenges within our own, sisterhood and brotherhood of outdoors people. The more I can look to somebody that pursues game in a different way than me and learn from them instead of criticize them. And social media is a big tool where, all of a sudden a keyboard and, these winds up coming out. Let's work towards being complementary to our brothers and sisters in the outdoors. And we're talking about turkey, but I weave that into every conversation I have. The more that the non-hunting community looks at us linked up arm in arm, the harder it is to get through us. So
you're absolutely right. And that's kind of been a common theme, or at least a mention in every one of our podcasts, how poorly we are as ambassadors for the outdoors. So hunters and fishing, fishermen and anybody that spends time outdoors, how poorly we are, because we just want to go out and do our thing. But as time goes on, we have to step up and we have to talk about it with everybody that we meet and educate them as to why we do what we do, about the conservation pieces. And, I've had so many conversations with people that have spent, other than hiking, never hunted or fished or, spent any time outdoors. And it's always, by the end of the conversation is, wow, you are really passionate about the outdoors. You're passionate about animals. And we just think of hunters as people that want to go out and kill everything and bring it home. And it's just not that. So absolutely on board with that.
I think that is changing. I think that historically, there's no arguing the fact that we have been very poorly represented, I think, in the eyes of the public. But I think that people are coming to view, I guess, hunters as a group as being more that conservationist. A hunter is a conservation with a gun. That's it.
Yeah.
The internet, social media is working to band us together and helping get some of that message out. Funny, you said a little while ago that when Maine first had its season and they had 400 tags, and I think that they filled 8 of them, you were curious to see what it was going to be like this year with the 400 tags. And I'll bet it's a lot more than 8 because of the internet, social media.
Yeah.
And when Maine had his first season, you didn't have people, learning how to call or learning the sequence of fly down cackles versus, tree yelps and all that kind of stuff. Whereas people can go out into the woods, having never hunted before, pretty educated. And that's a huge achievement, I think, for hunters because of social media and the internet.
Well, yeah, you guys know it too. And I mean, I've done it. I've done it. Well, there's been a lot more good luck than good management many of my turkey hunts. And so the old, even a blind squirrel gets a nut every now and then. I mean, there's been times where I've done absolutely everything wrong and still drug a bird out, put it in the back of the truck. So yeah. And in New Brunswick, there's been virtually, other than poaching, there's been zero hunting pressure on the birds. So I'm actually looking forward to a little bit of pressure and a few feathers, tail feathers getting, rattled and seeing what that does as far as the education on them and see where it goes. But you know what? I think you're probably right. I think we'll probably see more than 8 come together here. I do hope that too. I want to see hunters be successful, but I also want to see hunters get humiliated, so that they can realize just how challenging this is. Because it'll be sweet revenge for me, because I've had people tell me I'm a fool for 15 years, saying how hard it is, how hard it is to go on a turkey. I said, "You ever done it?" No. I said, well, "Okay, now we're gonna have our revenge, where people are gonna say, 'Holy cow! I didn't realize how wily those little things could be.'" So. Anyway.
It is so hard. I mean, I took a video a bunch of years ago from the inside of my truck at 3 jakes that were gobbling at my truck. I mean, in a subdivision, in one of the bigger cities in Ontario. And it's like, this is, the most wily bird in the woods. And it's very, very difficult to hunt, but it's difficult to make sort of non-hunters really appreciate how difficult that is.
Yeah, I know. Just gonna have to see it for themselves.
Well, it's funny because you talk about hunters, educating birds and going to be, that are going to be humiliated. And there are people, and I guarantee it right now, that are doing that in New Brunswick because they're scouting with turkey calls and they're out there with their box call and they're getting gobbles and turkeys are coming in. And you know what? They're not going to shoot that bird on opening day. Chances are. So.
No, it's going to be, well, we're entering into a brand new world. So I'm excited to see, man, I'll tell you what, if you had told me 20 years ago that you could even run out into a field and call a turkey out, I would have thought you were crazy, right? just to see now. I mean, like, because I've had to travel to roost birds, to hunt birds, to call birds, to learn about birds, and now with a short little drive from where I live right now, where I'm coming to you right now, I can practice roosting birds. Yeah, man, that's pretty exciting.
Oh, and it's because of the hard work that you've committed so many years of your life to doing that you're seeing that come to fruition.
Well, we're right there. I can't wait to see it come across the line.
So, other than obviously, no hunting accidents and no poaching charges, what would it look like for you guys to call this a successful season?
Well, it's already a successful season if it opens up on opening day, because of all the, like the old saying, every overnight success took about 20 years in the process, right? So just to get to the point where the Hunt and Trap Manual for the province of New Brunswick lists the eastern wild turkey as a species that we manage, that is a massive victory all into itself, because that means that now we are, as the government, as the Department of Natural Resources, committed to ensuring the management of a species that calls the woods or the water of New Brunswick home. I believe so strongly in that. For years, we argued over whether a turkey was indigenous to the province of New Brunswick. And I couldn't care less, because white-tailed deer aren't indigenous to the province of New Brunswick. And in 200 years from now, there's going to be some species that's not here today. That was just a BS argument for people in government who did not want to do anything more. And so I said, it doesn't matter. Stop that. When I walked in, I said, I don't want to hear whether they were here or not. They're here now. And any wildlife species that calls the woods or the water of New Brunswick home deserves to be managed. So getting to the point where that's a managed species in the province of New Brunswick, that's a victory all in and of itself. Yeah. It'll be a victory as well if we do have an opportunity, because there are some farming communities that are really looking forward to this, to kind of help, scatter some birds away from their property. If we see some positive results there, that's going to be good. Right down to and including the folks that hoist a bird over their shoulder and walk into the woods. Like that's until you do it, you can't explain. And I'm looking forward to some New Brunswickers having that experience for the very first time.
It almost makes me want to drive down there for the opening of the season, just to drive around and see all these people out with turkeys over their shoulders. Oh man.
That's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do.
You mean you're not hunting opening day?
No, for God's sakes. I don't apply for the moose draw in New Brunswick. I don't apply for any draw, because you know what? Of course, if I got picked, it would be rigged. And
that's right. It's a draw. That's right.
Oh yeah, it's a draw. So I don't apply for any draws in New Brunswick. But I'll tell you what, I'll be beaten through those 5 wildlife management zones. And somebody comes out, and they're just, if they're looking for somebody to call or whatever, I just want to be immersed in it for the whole 2 weeks that we do it, and just see those people. Like, I mean, you guys have known when you mentor somebody. I mean, I still go back to a big, tough, strong military guy that I took into the woods with his son down in Maine at a hoot and shoot. And so we had lined up and found a nice little spot, and his son managed to flatten a Jake. And so I thought the son must have somehow shot the father, because of the sounds coming out of him. He was hooping and hollering so much. He must have ricocheted, got the old man with a pellet or something, because he was hollering and hooping and going on like you wouldn't believe. And then, ultimately we got to the truck, he was all turned around because he had tears going down his face.
Right.
That sticks with you, right?
Yeah.
That sticks with you. So, I want to go around and see that. I want to see that look. I've seen it before. It's addictive, and I want to be back around seeing people experience that for the first time. So.
I've been that sobbing guy before. It's a great feeling.
With me, it's usually after the birds have flown away. The chamber's
going to be doing a registration of some sort. I know when you bring your turkey to a weigh station and get a beard measurement and a spur length and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think what we're going to try to do is use as many of the online means as we can. It's not like moose with a jawbone or deer with a tooth. A lot of this stuff can be done with point and click, right?
Yep.
And I'm going to offer on a voluntary basis, because one of the things I started doing from the first time I ever shot a bird was opening up the crop. And then, you get a good idea of what's going on. I mean, when they're hard rot, I mean, you're going to open up those crops and there's going to be nothing there. But I'll tell you, one time I pulled a crop out of a bird and it was just doing this. It was just moving. And I opened it up and it was full of ticks. It was,
really?
Oh, yeah. Which was gross at the time.
Yeah.
But I looked at that and I thought, man, I'm very encouraged to see that this bird will eat anything. I mean, I've had buddies that have found a broadhead in the crop, right? So if that really turned me on to the fact that these birds are what are they potentially picking off there that's going to be helpful to us? So if guys or girls want to voluntarily pop open the crop and take pictures of it, I want to do all that stuff. I'll take all the information we can get, because once again, the touchdown here is getting to the point where New Brunswick is managing these wild turkeys, and any biologicals that we get are the very first biologicals that we've ever gotten on wild turkeys in New Brunswick. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, we're going to want to have data as much as we get.
No, that's very cool. Just thinking about all the ticks, like, oh my gosh. That's kind of disturbing.
Oh, it was disturbing. I'm always thinking of that every time I open up a crop now. But I mean, we see here in New Brunswick, I don't know about Ontario, but moose ticks are becoming a progressive issue, that as it takes longer to get into the freeze up and we come into the thaw quicker, this becomes a more prolific issue that we're dealing with. So, I mean, if I hear that there's any kind of a critter that's going to be helpful on reducing that, I mean, you imagine how big of a problem that is. I mean, calf moose, it's a lot easier when they're smaller, but this is something that can kill a moose.
Yeah. That's
crazy. We've got to start getting proactive with ways that we deal with that too.
I know that ticks on deer. Well, I harvested a deer last year, and I was shocked at how many ticks came off that thing. Like, I'd never seen anything like it. Like, oh,
yeah, I know.
Wow. And that's that's a big problem. Leave the possums alone. Those guys eat an awful lot of ticks.
Yeah. Absolutely. We should trap and transfer skunks. They go through them like crazy too.
You can have some from around here.
Yeah. I got lots. I got lots very, very, very close to my back door. Trust me, I'm all right.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, you know what? I certainly can't wait for you to come to Ontario and turkey hunt with us, Mike. That's a standing.
Yeah. I'm in. I'm just like a kid before we get there. I'm able to sit like a stone when we're there, and then I'm just like a kid afterwards. So you better, you won't have to worry about carrying on the conversation. I get pretty excited anytime I get to go turkey hunting. So
that's right on. How long is New Brunswick going to be in a draw system, do you think?
Depends on the resource, right?
Yeah, okay.
We're going to let that dictate the tail to us. Depends on the interest and how many people apply. I mean, we've had I don't have today's number, but last week we had like over 3,000 people that applied already. So, if we were offering 400 tags and 380 people applied, well, I guess then it'd be a different story. But the demand is exceeding the resources ability to supply right now. And so long as that's the case, we'll be sticking with a draw system. And then, of course, the population, as they spread and grow and whatever, that, of course, will affect us as well.
I look forward to the day where there's a non-resident New Brunswick tag.
Me too. I mean,
I love New Brunswick. I've spent so much time there, and that would be fantastic.
Well, think about it. I mean, you have zones now with spring bear in Ontario, but are they interlocked with the turkeys?
Oh, I'd have to overlap regs.
Some of the northern Simcoe County areas, and there would be in eastern Ontario as well, like up in the Ottawa Valley, they have spring bear and there'd be turkeys up there.
Think about when we can do spring bear and spring wild turkey combo hunts in the province of New Brunswick. I mean, not many jurisdictions in North America can do that, and that's one of the things that I've worked very hard at, is monetizing our industry to the Department of Tourism in the province of New Brunswick. Because prior to 3 years ago, tourism was flip-flops and a day at the beach, right? Which that's phenomenal. And we have people who come from all over for that. But I tried to explain and get buy-in, and we've got it now with the Department of Tourism in New Brunswick about the value of the outdoor community as it relates to an economic impact in the province of Brunswick. It's billions of dollars in the course of North America. And if we could start doing, you see, in New Brunswick, in our spring, our smallmouth bass season's open about a month earlier than a lot of places. We get to the point of non-resident turkey and non-resident spring bear. My Lord, I mean, we got a mecca here for opportunity to generate revenue. And you know what? Every time we can show that we stand on our own 2 feet and we actually generate revenue and we don't cost and we are growing populations and we're not just killing, then you know what? You can't help but give us credibility in the halls of government. And that's where things can start to move ahead really quickly. In fact, I'm very proud of the fact that we've got a standalone guy in the Department of Tourism now that represents the hunting and fishing community. That's a massive win for us, and I'm very pleased about that.
Well, it certainly would inject a lot of sports and people coming into the province. I remember, going back to New Brunswick, I guess my first trip was when I was very young, but 25 years ago or so, I started going into New Brunswick on a regular annual basis, and there was lots of sports that from the U.S. and other places that came in to fish the Miramichi and the salmon fishery. And I've just seen a steady decline over the number of years, and then COVID hit, and a lot of the camps and organizations and all the guides, like that's got to be tough on so many different people on so many different levels. So anything that opens it up to other people to experience the beauty and wonder of New Brunswick, I think that'd be awesome for you guys.
I agree. Couldn't have said it better myself.
What's next for the CWTF in New Brunswick?
Well, we got some really good guys there. When I became the Minister of Natural Resources, prior to that, actually, when I decided to run in the provincial election, I rescinded all of my positions and duties. It was a very difficult thing for me to do. It was like sending your baby off to college or whatever for the first time. And thankfully that, the baby was well adapted to take care of itself. But I had to rescind all of my responsibilities, duties, and positions as a result, because, I can't operate in any form of a conflict of interest or be a member of any of those associations. But what I see taking place is I see new chapters developing, and this will breathe new life into certain areas of the province where folks, the CWTF, the NWTF, I mean, think about the fact that the NWTF had a chapter in Alaska. That blew me away. Right? That was one of the things that made me very proud of working with the NWTF. Same as CWTF. They've got chapters in St. John's, Newfoundland, right? They got chapters in Nova Scotia. They've had chapters in Nova Scotia for longer than we've had some in New Brunswick, and it's going to take longer for this to manifest down in Nova Scotia. So I think what I find that's something phenomenal about the turkey federations is that they are about our sport in general. And it just happens to have a big, beautiful turkey as the mascot for it. Yeah. So I think you'll see in New Brunswick, I think you'll see more interest now that there actually is a hunt. Like, I think this is the first time that there's been a hunt on wild turkeys introduced in North America in quite a while. And it'll make news and that'll ripple throughout the hunting community. And I hope it becomes easier to procure members for chapters, to get more active. And what that's ultimately going to do is it's going to bring in more ladies. It's going to bring in more kids. It's going to bring in more non-hunters and allow us to, perpetuate the cycle again. Guys like me and Terry started out turning the bucket when there was nothing in it. And now, these guys have some momentum and I'm looking forward to them taking and capitalizing on that and building a true conservation organization that's going to work towards making, everything better, regardless of the species that's represented. So I see that in the future.
Oh, that's fantastic. Fantastic. What a great story.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so exciting. And you guys must be just, biting your nails, excited. All of the work and the time and the volunteers and all of the different banquets and the initiatives over the years. And finally, you know, all of these things are starting to pay off. And unfortunately, COVID hit, because I think, you know, we've spoke to Terry a lot about the momentum of the CWTF and how big it was going to get, and the plans, and, you know, banquets for everywhere were scheduled, but COVID really hit. So it's hopefully it's just a small brief pause in history, and we can get the train back on the tracks after this is done and keep moving forward. But
absolutely. I mean, we've got a longstanding history in New Brunswick here. And I'm reticent to do this because I'm going to miss a lot of people. But I think back to when we really started talking turkey in like 2000 range here in the province of New Brunswick. I mean, that's like trying to sell kayaks in the Sahara Desert, right? Like it was a silly concept to talk about back then.
Right.
But, you know, there were guys committed to seeing into the future. And, you know, late Dale Robinson, he was a taxidermist in the Sussex area. And Dale and I used to, like, he was so passionate about this stuff, and we would fight to move things forward. Sometimes we'd fight together. But, you know, like we were with a group of people, you know, Leo Moore, Rob Wilson. I'm missing so many guys along the way, but those were guys I worked with, and we were in the fight. And, you know, sometimes it went good and sometimes it went bad. Well, many more times it ended with frustrations. But, you know, these guys, Terry Smith, Jim Westcott and Rob Codio came from Maine so many times to come up and be here with us. You know, there's chapter presidents now that are built that don't even know those guys that I mentioned, right? and I'm thinking that, you know, you're talking a 20-year history when the idea of hunting turkeys in New Brunswick was ludicrous, but we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for them. So, you know, I do a big salute to the folks that got a lot more time into this than me, and I hope that they are having a chance to watch. I certainly hope that they have a chance to participate, and every time I do one of these, I give a big shout out and a thank you to those guys that went before me, even. So
it really must just feel like, you know, parents and their kids' university graduation day, you know, because it's been, well, like you said, 21 years in the making. And here you are on the cusp of the first wild turkey season in the province.
It's a dream come true. It absolutely is. So we're as excited as we possibly could be. We're in a good place here in New Brunswick. The Department of Natural Resources is alive. The staff there are recognizing that if they do want to make things better, they will be empowered, not chastised. We see that through the Department of Environment. We see that through the Department of Tourism. We lit a fire 20 years ago with turkeys. We poured gas on it 3 years ago when I grabbed this office, and now, you know, we're all standing there enjoying the glow of it there right now. So it's pretty exciting.
The rest of the country is applauding.
Good. Well, you know what? It's humbling for little old New Brunswick to be able to be looked at by the rest of the province as leading an initiative. So that's not lost on me. And I bring that point to the Premier constantly here in the province of New Brunswick, because he doesn't come from an outdoor background. And I speak to him continually about the fact that we are a beacon that's being looked at throughout the entire country. We're being looked at in jurisdictions south of the border. People are seeing that we are actually moving forward and getting things done. And although governments aren't typically known for moving their natural resources files forward, they should be judged by being able to move files forward. And we feel like, and I'm proud of the fact that I think we did. I think we are, and we're not done yet. So, you know, this is when the door hits me and the next guy gets one more vote than me and I'm gone. You know, we got to have left a legacy in the time that we have had while we're here. Hey, politicians need to look at that. You got a window. You're not going to be here forever. Don't sit down and get too comfy in your office chair. You're going to be giving that to the next person. And I've already written the letter to the next Minister of Natural Resources, and it's in the top drawer of my desk. And it reminds me that I am in a temporary position. And the letter is to the next person about how to carry on and continue the work that's being done. You don't do that, you're not doing your job. And I don't care what department it is, but for me, it's so personal that natural resources, we make a mark, and that legacy continues. That it's borrowed time. I'm going to do the most I can with it.
Well, hopefully that letter has another 4+1 years before somebody else reads it. So passionate about the outdoors, Mike, and so passionate about turkeys, and it's I don't want to get into politics. It's your daily life, but it is so refreshing to see somebody in your position with the passion to drive these programs forward and to actually make a difference.
That's much appreciated.
Yeah, no, and I'm with Carl, and I suspect that letter is going to sit in your drawer for a long time. Part of me is hoping that you'll be able to apply for those draws sooner rather than later, because I think that participating in those events is part of your DNA also.
Well, it's funny. I hunt as much as I can. This job kind of crimps the ability for me to do that quite a bit. When it comes to whitetail deer, I love venison. Deer meat, I grew up on it. It's a staple in my home. I eat what I harvest. So I have a friend who's got a farm that's got a pretty significant doe ratio on there. And so I usually get a doe tag, because it's a pretty quick hunt. I can go out on a Friday night, and by Saturday morning, I know I'm running home with a doe, so long as I can, still look through a scope. So I harvested a deer a couple of years ago, and I got to go register it, right? So I throw it in the back of the truck, and I drive down to the local registry station, local DNR station, and of course I'm wearing my hunting gear, and I knock on the door. The ranger comes out, and he looks at me, and he's looking at me funny. Right? He can't place me, but he's looking at me. And so I pass him. He says, "Can I have your license?" And I passed him my license, and I had signed the applicant part, and then I had also signed the minister part. I had signed both sides of the license. He looked at me, he said, "I knew that was you. I knew that was you." So I'm a minister of natural resources, but I participate in the harvesting of those resources, and I'm actually the first one that's ever been on the province of New Brunswick website with a picture of me, that ranger, and my big doe on the natural resources site. So.
You didn't say, "Hey, I'm here to register my deer, and by the way, I'm your boss." But,
no, but I'll tell you what, though, that was the most thorough deer registration I have ever seen. He went by the book. I'll tell you what.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's funny. That's it's going to go one way or the other. It's like, I want to make this really quick and easy for the guy, or.
Oh no, he went through. We got more biological data on that poor old doe. I got her year. I got the amount of teeth. He said, if you had brought the stomach content, anyway. So no, but the staff. I'll tell you what, the staff have really embraced the fact that they're being recognized. And I often said the boots and the hard hats mean more to the resources than the suits and the ties. And so we've tried to create a theme that the folks that are on the ground there, the folks that are working, interacting with us every day, the folks that are that are finding the offenders and working hard to help build that reputation with us. Like we're in a good time right now. We're in a really good time. And I say it over and over again. We strike while the iron's hot. Capitalize on this every chance we get.
Wow.
Mike, you said at the beginning that when the tide comes in, all the boats in the harbor get raised. And I think that you are bringing a current to your government that is raising all the boats in the harbor. And it's, I think you should be really proud of what you've accomplished and what you continue to achieve. It's as an outsider looking into New Brunswick, you've done a hell of a job, and it's really great to see.
Well, appreciate that coming from you folks. I mean, I watch you guys and the work you do to build our sport. So to be endorsed by people who I consider to be doing it right, then that means a lot to me. So it just means I'll keep working just as hard. So, and I'll come miss a turkey with you guys just as much as miss a turkey.
You know what? New Brunswick deer hunting is on my bucket list. So I see a stop and trade in our future.
Absolutely. You know, we can get you in there. Have you ever striper fished, striped bass?
Not successfully. I've tried I lived in Fredericton for a couple of years.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I was not successful getting a striper, but bucket list again.
Here's New Brunswick. We have the St. John River system where I'm like, when I worked for politicians before, I would stay at the crappiest hotel because it was right at the corner of the Nashwauk River and the St. John River. And I could just duck down over the hill and you could get white perch, yellow perch, smallmouth bass. You could get stripers. You could catch the smelt to catch the stripers. You could catch muskies. You could catch, there could be salmon go through there. Like the St. John River system is just alive with different fish species. We were talking about hunting, but we have got one of the most diverse fisheries. Sturgeon, the muskies. We got world-class muskies here in the province of New Brunswick. We're working hard, like I told you, with river protections to help fortify our salmon populations up in the northern part of the province. We trout, lake trout. Like even if you said, I want to put the gun down for the rest of my life, you could fish and enjoy an outdoor career that's phenomenal here. So we got something to be very proud of. We just got to keep promoting it. And I am a little shy about things, but as you can tell, but we got something we're proud of. And we're going to promote quite a bit.
I have spent years in New Brunswick myself. I was able to take a beautiful salmon, and I don't know how many years ago that was, when the fishery was still good. I have spent so many hours driving the roads of the Dungarvan. Yep. And it is such a beautiful, beautiful province. And I look forward to the day where I get to go out there and hunt turkey. That's on my bucket list.
We can't wait to have you. And I did this one time. We're trying to do a lot of work to balance conservation. I talked about that earlier. And so my job as the Minister of Natural Resources, I also have forestry. So I'm responsible to both cut trees and save trees. So don't you come with that spot, right? That's an interesting dynamic. And we are a forestry-based province, forestry built the province of New Brunswick. It's responsible for a couple of $1 billion in GDP and 20,000 jobs here. So it's not something to be sneezed at, and it needs to be respected for what it has done to build the province of New Brunswick. But I've worked hard to bring that balance in place. And so by doubling conserved and protected areas. But one of the things I did was we use a very specific LiDAR technology to map our forest floors. It's like a radar. It's like you can almost see the squirrels on the ground when you're mapping it out. We fly over
the vegetation, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I got them last year to give me a map of the province of New Brunswick in fall colors, and like to color it, like to take the hardwoods and color them in orange and red, and the softwoods and color them in green. See, we are a forest intense province, and we do clear cutting, and we do herbicide treatments, and we do plantations. But when I saw that map, I was like, holy crap, we got an incredible skeleton here to build upon. We've got Acadian mixed forest that can move all through every area. And if we do this conservation piece right, like we're going to have a model for other jurisdictions to look at as it relates to balancing both forestry and ecology at the same time. And that's a big legacy piece if we can do that right there. The thing is that when you talk forestry, you got to plan and diversity of forest and species mix. I can grow a garden in 3 months.
50 years.
Right?
Yeah.
It's 80 years. Our projections are out for 80 years. So we've adopted a long ball game right from the beginning when it talks about this. The stuff I'm doing right now, I am going to be dead when we see it come to fruition. I can only hope that my grandkids and their kids are experiencing and enjoying it. So, and that's the attitude of the conservationist right there. If you ask me, I ain't going to get to do it. And I get so mad. When I'm talking about initiatives that we're doing, and somebody says, "Well, that's not going to help me shoot a big buck." Well, no, it's not about you shooting a big buck, right? Everything I'm doing is to build upon what we have. Nothing you do in conservation or ecology or wild turkeys or anything is going to be something you can do today and see the results of tomorrow. If it is, the results can be destroyed just as quick. So I continually hammer the fact that we're an ocean liner that's moving, and the trajectory of that ocean liner, if you want to turn that 15 degrees, you got to start turning it a long time before you see the iceberg. Just ask the Titanic, right? Like, they saw that long ahead. What we're doing now is we're recalibrating the direction that's going to put us on a 75, 80, 100-year trajectory. So I don't have a lot of patience when somebody says, "Yeah, what's that going to do for me? I don't get to hunt a big buck." Yeah. Or that's when I do that. That's when I do type, delete.
Sit on it for a while. And
yeah. It's a long game. It's a long game, and it has to be, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think we've been on here for a while, so we won't. I know you're an incredibly busy person, and so we'll wrap it up. Ian, any last thoughts at all?
No, you know what? It's so refreshing, Mike, to be able to speak with a politician that has vision and actually walks the walk. Like, you're not just, making promises about tomorrow so you can, keep the letter in your drawer for another term.
Yeah.
It's really obvious that you believe in what you're doing. And the last 20 years and your efforts with the turkeys are showing that you are actually doing what you say. And that's,
we're getting there. Yeah.
We need more of you in government. I mean that sincerely. So I really appreciate the time. It's been a real pleasure talking to you.
Well, I appreciate that very much. And although this was our first chance to chat, let's make sure it's not our last one. And hopefully someday it's at the camp.
You got that.
Oh, yeah. I'm in. I don't even know where to start, Mike. It really has been a great conversation, and I just love the passion, and I love that you're in the position to make these positive changes. Like, that's, everybody thinks that they're going to grow up and make great positive changes, and few of us actually can do that on a grand scheme of things, within our family units, of course. But
yep.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for all the work you do. And if there's any way that letter that you have in your desk can go and be spread across the country somehow, that, there's a lot of great politicians out there.
Yeah, there is.
And there's a lot of not so great politicians out there. But like I said, we won't get into that. But Mike Holland, the Minister of Natural Resources for New Brunswick and turkey enthusiast, outdoor, passionate guy, thank you so much for being on Turkey Talk.
The Honorable Mike Holland, everybody. Thanks for your time.
See you in the field, boys.
Thanks, everybody. Don't forget, tune in to the next episode of Turkey Talk, whenever that will be. Check out our channel, therealoutdoorexperience.com, and don't forget, sign up and get your membership for the CWTF. It's a very, very important. Thank you again, Minister Mike Holland. And don't forget always,
hey, keep it real, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Take good care. Thanks for staying with us. You have been listening to the Canadian Wild Turkey Federation's Turkey Talk podcast with your hosts, Carl and Ian from the Real Outdoor Experience. Tune in next time as we have an amazing lineup of both guests and subjects that span across the outdoors. Don't forget, get your kids outdoors, and always keep it real.